If you're a Texas landowner and you're interested in improving the quality of the genetics on your ranch, you can contact me at deerandwildlifestories.com. Look how beautiful y'all are. To me, there's nothing more beautiful than a whitetail fawn. Hey everybody, welcome to Deer and Wildlife Stories and to Tajada Whitetails, where right now it's breakfast time. They're feeding the babies. But Tajada Whitetails is located just outside of Houston, Texas, and it's home to one of my favorite bucks of all time, Gunslinger. And on today's show, you're gonna see that Gunslinger is not only giant, but he's getting the job done too with production. As a deer hunter, I want to know all I can about America's favorite big game animal. That's why I became a deer farmer. Without deer farms, we lose our greatest resource for research and whitetail management. With them, we gain more knowledge than ever before. Join me as we discover the truth about whitetails and meet those who work every day to preserve this great species for future generations. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories.
My name is George Tunaw, and I own Tajada Whitetails. This is the third time that we've had Keith back here. We're excited to have him here, and no doubt we know that he's excited to see Gunslinger.
So this is our third year having Keith out here recording a show with us, and it's just fun to see him drive through the pins because it doesn't matter where he's at, he's got his binos up and he's looking for Gunslinger.
All right, so we're going to show you Gunslinger. We're going to show you a lot of Gunslinger on today's show, but we're going to start out in the certified pins. And George, if you would tell everybody what the certified pins are for.
Certified pins have to be monitored 6 years, animal health. Any state that is allowed to take deer, we can ship them deer if their borders are open.
Okay, so I want to point something out that, I've been traveling all over the north filming deer farms, and everybody's talking about Gunslinger. I mean, how do they get Gunslinger genetics up there? They really want from the doe side. Okay, it's real easy to get it from the top side because you can call George and get some semen, but the way that they can get it from on the bottom side is by dealing with somebody like George Tunaw and getting him out of a certified pin. So you do sell deer to people up north?
Yes, if any state that is allowed to take them, we can sell them to out of these particular pins.
Okay, so that's what's so cool about this is that if you want to get started right, I mean, we always tell people start with the best quality of deer that you can buy, not quantity, but quality. And as far as quality goes, I mean, you'd have to be living underneath a rock to not have heard about Gunslinger, especially if you watch our show. Because everybody thinks I'm a partner in Gunslinger, but I'm not. I just love the deer. And we're going to show you plenty of Gunslinger, but he is not in the certified herd right here. But there's plenty of blood from Gunslinger in this herd, right?
Yes, and there'll be a lot more that's coming good.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to buy a bred doe out of here, you can do so and deliver it?
Yes, as long as their state accepts them, yes, we can.
Okay, so give them a telephone number so they can get a hold of you if they want to find out more information. And folks, you're not going to be calling somebody and getting just an average deer. I want you to know that. You're going to be calling somebody, a certified deer is a very valuable deer, and the genetics are as good as you can get. So go ahead and give them a phone number.
It's 832-622-2571.
Okay, now you got a deer in here. Last year in the certified pen, we saw a great big deer. He was kind of lopsided a little bit. And what did y'all name him now?
We named him Tactus Shot.
Okay, and that's got to be him right there.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, so that's the same buck that we filmed in here last year that had a damage on one side.
Yeah, as a yearling, he stuck his head through the fence to eat peanuts. That doesn't ever work out well when you have antlers on. And so when he pulled them back, he kind of tweaked them. This year, you can see just on his right side alone, looks like a rib cage. Not a question of whether he has 10 or 12-inch tines, it's a question of how many 12-inch tines he has. So there's a whole bunch of them. And he's, one thing that makes that deer really special, don't get me wrong, he's a beautiful deer. He's going to have a lot of antler on his head, but his pedigree. You know how I always preach pedigree, pedigree, pedigree.
Yeah, that's George's middle name.
You've got Triple Crown over Gunslinger's womb sister. So it's kind of hard to get better than that. You know, Triple Crown, we all know who he is. Gunslinger, hopefully everybody seems to know who he is. But you've got both of them in one mix. You actually have Triple Crown over top of Gunslinger's womb. So you got a strong buck over powerhouse doe. It's kind of hard to do any better than that.
I look at him and think, okay, folks, the deer's only 2 years old. And at 1, he was big. Okay, he had a little bit of antler damage, but at 2, he's gotten really big. And it's gonna be interesting to see what he does at 3. And is he for sale?
Oh yeah, anything's for sale, but he's not on sale, I can assure you of that.
Okay, the green tags in here, they gotta be yearlings?
Yes, they're all yearlings.
Okay, and when you take a look at these yearlings, I mean, just take a look at them, folks. I mean, they're absolutely beautiful. All of them were born here?
Yes, all of them born here.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. What is your philosophy on somebody purchasing a yearling, or would you sell a yearling? I mean, you deal with all your stuff is the best genetics you can get. And what do you think?
Well, yearlings, you just never know what they're going to do it to. We'll look at a deer here in a moment that last year his antlers would fit in your pocket, literally. This year he's all over the website, Lone Ranger. He's in excess of 30 inches wide. The big yearlings, yeah, they're going to be big 2-year-olds. Well, are they going to be my biggest 2-year-olds? Usually not. Usually there's somebody that you didn't even look at in the pen as a yearling that is your next superstar.
Okay, so we will actually show you Lone Ranger here in just a second. But that's a good piece of advice. When you're dealing with somebody that's got great pedigrees, and like I said, that's George's middle name, okay, great pedigrees, what happens is that as a yearling, they may not be very good, but as a 2-year-old, they could blow up to be the biggest deer you got. So let's go take a look at Lone Ranger. What do you say?
That sounds like a good deal.
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds. Viewer feedback is presented by Protect the Harvest, Protect the Hunt. All right, this is off our website. It says, thanks for putting this show out there, Keith Warren. It's about time that someone started to celebrate the whitetail deer by making them the star of the show instead of the hunter. Whitetails are magnificent animals. As you are helping people learn more about them with your show, I can't wait to see the next episode. Sincerely, Jay Langley. Jay, thanks for the comment. Thanks for going to our website, and thank you for watching the show and loving whitetail deer. You know, we celebrate the whitetail deer by going to deer farms. The whitetail deer have brought so much joy to so many people, whether you're a hunter, a wildlife photographer, a landowner, or a deer farmer. And we want to make the whitetail deer the star of the show. We're always saying that if we do what's best for the whitetail deer, regardless of wherever they live, we're doing the right thing. So, Jay, thank you for watching the show. If y'all have a question or comment about the program, we'd love to hear from you. Go to our website and hit the Connect with Keith tab.
My manager for Tajada Whitetails is Juliana. One thing that I really appreciate is that she's a girl. You may think that's funny, but you know, a lot of people look at this as it's a man's job because she hauls 50-pound bags of feed all day long. And a lot of people have asked me why I chose her over some of the other candidates we had. The main reason was work ethic and really pays attention to the animals. Doesn't really matter what comes up, the animals are never neglected. I tell a lot of people when they ask me about qualities for a ranch manager or someone on their ranch, what they should look for, is unfortunately you can't look for it because you can't see it. It's not size, it's not shape, it's not gender, but it's the heart that they put behind the job, and that's one thing that really sets Juliana apart. She works extremely hard no matter what the circumstances are. She's going to get the job done and take care of the animals. Okay, so we're going to show you a deer in a minute. I think it's going to blow your mind, but he's a 2-year-old buck we're going to show you, but this was his rack as a 1-year-old. Take a look how big he was. He's actually more like that, Keith. Really? Yeah, he was only 4 3/4 inside. Woo, a monster. You know, people have always said back years ago, you know, if you see a junk yearling, go ahead and cull them out, but not when you got the genetics like George has got. So right now, we want to show you what this deer looks like at 2 years old. And his name is Lone Ranger, right there. Man, oh man. You know, that's hard to believe. It is hard to believe that a deer could go from this to that. How wide is it? Well, actual inside of his real beams, he's a little over 30 inches. And then he has the big flyers going on the outside. Got a lot of tines over 11, 12 inches long. Gonna go, as you can see, way over 300 inches and pushing right at 30-inch beams. What makes it amazing, though, is exactly what you just mentioned, was as a yearling, you wouldn't even look twice at him. I mean, he was in a pen full of 200, there was a 285, there was a 302 in the pen with him, there was even a 331. in the same pen with him, and you think, oh, just discount this buck. This year, he's one of the best bucks. In fact, the deer that was 331 is no bigger than what he is this year. So a big 1-year-old is going to mean a big 2-year-old usually, but don't necessarily mean the biggest 2-year-old. If you have the right genetics, a lot of these deer don't do it until they're 2 years old, and usually the big jump is at 3. Unfortunately, we sell 95 to 98% of our bucks at 2.
Okay, now he says that, he says, unfortunately. Okay, and I'm out here and said, George, where are your older deer? He doesn't have any. And the reason why is because people are beating the gate down to get in here to buy these deer before they get mature. I mean, these deer are already giant. I guess the oldest buck you've got out here is Gunslinger. And so
Jesse James.
Well, Jesse James, yeah. But other than Jesse James, who's a legend, Gunslinger is the only old buck out here. And so everybody else gets sold when they're 2 years old because they're that good. But when you take a look at him, Lone Ranger, I mean, he blew up 250, 300 inches at least.
Yeah, at least 300. Yeah.
I mean, a 300-inch jump in 1 year, that's pretty good. So the next time, if you're a deer hunter and you're out there and see a little old gnarly yearling like this, think, I'm gonna go ahead and cull him. You may want to think twice. I mean, and that's the cool thing about deer farming. We learn a lot of this stuff. I mean,
right.
as a deer hunter, you've been told, shoot spikes when you see them as yearlings, get rid of them, get them out of there because their genetics are poor. Not necessarily. And Lone Ranger is living proof of that. Okay, we promise you, we're gonna be giving you some Gunslinger. We're gonna give you a lot of Gunslinger. And the cool thing about Gunslinger is Gunslinger, a lot of people when they have a big deer, they're all jacked up about it, but the deer typically doesn't produce later on in life. When they become a legend is when they start producing. And Gunslinger is starting to produce some big offspring. We've got some 2-year-olds on the ground, some gigantic yearlings on the ground. And what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna go and we're gonna start showing you offspring of Gunslinger, and then we'll take you to the Gunslinger pen. If you're in Texas and interested in becoming a deer farmer, you can contact me for deer farming franchise opportunities right here in Texas at deerandwildlifestories.com. All right, so the first deer we're going to show you out of Gunslinger is a yearling that's owned by Sullivan Whitetails, and his name is Slurpee. Just take a look at him. Gunslinger now has proven production, and when you take a look at Slurpee, tell me, is that not a deer that any breeder would want to have in their pens? Okay, so now let's take a look at a 2-year-old out of Gunslinger. His name is Gunsmoke, and Blake Revels at Revels Rack Ranch has got him. And when you take a look at him, that's the Gunslinger look right there. I mean, he is big, beautiful, and he's deep pedigreed, and he's valuable. All right, now let's take a look at another 2-year-old out of Gunslinger, and he's on the Antler Ranch, owned by Donovan Williams. This 2-year-old, again, I mean, he's got the Gunslinger look, and it's clear Gunslinger is putting it on the ground. All right, enough of showing you Gunslinger's offspring. We're gonna show you Gunslinger in a minute, but you may be wondering, where do these deer all go? We told you that he doesn't have any bucks out here over 2 years old. They get sold. Well, we're gonna show you what happens when these deer get sold, how they get delivered to another deer breeder. All right, so George is on the phone calling up the people that are gonna get these bucks. These bucks are gonna be used for a special purpose, and they're gonna be delivered to a pen. This guy is a breeder that they're taking them to. And so what George is doing now, he's making sure that it's okay to deliver the deer this evening. The reason why to move them in the evening is because it's cooler, less stress on the animals.
Looks like we're going to have decent weather this evening. We want to move those deer at night. They just seem to do better.
And so what he's doing, he's getting permission. Then he's going to jump on the computer and execute a permit. That has to be done through the state. Once the state approves a permit and gives him authorization that the permit is now active, they're going to wait till dusk, right before dark, and then they're going to go ahead and knock these bucks down, put them in a trailer, reverse them, wait until they're fully awake, and then head on up the road.
If I could tell anybody anything that was interested in getting into deer farming, it would be what really makes deer farming cool is, unlike any other business that you get in, your family's involved with you in deer farming. So it really makes it nice that there's a business that the whole family can be involved in and they really enjoy.
We have one loaded and we have one more to go get. So we just unloaded both the new breeder bucks at Treetops and Whitetails. Used the Circle B trailers with the movable chute doors, which is safe for the deer and safe for me. we're gonna go just make sure they're in the pens and everything's good.
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by New Dart, leading the industry in accuracy. Okay, so I'm sure that people watch the show have heard of the deer Gunslinger, and you've been watching this show, you've heard us talking about Gunslinger, and there he is. I mean, you got to admit, that is one unbelievable deer. George, go ahead and tell the people that don't know about Gunslinger, tell them about him.
Well, Gunslinger's buck that obviously his look is one of those things that everybody kind of knows now. He's 19, 20 inch tine some year. He's always over 30. This year, the deer actually got damaged on his right side, and we thought we were going to have to cut him. We didn't. Now his right side turns in, but he's still over 30 inches wide, still going to have 33 to 35 inch beams, still going to have 18, 19 inch tines, and he does it year after year. That's one thing that makes him so cool, is he's not one of these bucks that's done it once. He's done it at 2, he's done it 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have all those pictures, as you well know. But what's really making Gunslinger impressive now is he's passing that frame to his sons. You never know what he's going to pass. When we look at some of these deer, they're 30 inches wide and their sons are narrow. So far, the few 2-year-olds, there's only like 14 2-year-olds out there. And out of those 14, at least 7 of them are over 28 inches wide. Several of them, like Gunsmoke, it's Rebels Rack Ranch, which owns Gunsmoke, over 30 inches wide. So what's made Gunslinger famous, is, I guess if you want to say that, is his big, high, tall frame. What's going to keep him famous is if his sons carry that trait.
It's the production. It's the production that he throws out there. And I know the very first time I saw him, it was just incredible. I mean, and look, what happens is, I don't think that you can really imagine how big that deer is until you walk up on him. Gunslinger's a 300-pound animal. I mean, he is a big-bodied animal. So when you walk up on him, and when he's knocked down on the ground, when they collect him or they wind up moving him from pen to pen or what, cut its antlers off, he is so massive. Not just his antlers are huge, but his body's huge. So proportionally, his antlers are actually bigger than what you think by looking at him right here. And what happens, George, every single day, George treats his deer, everybody treats their deer something special, with something special. Tell him what you treat yours with.
Well, Gunslinger's a watermelon kid. I mean, he loves watermelon. He doesn't really get close to you. He's not a scary deer. He doesn't run, but he could really care less if you come in his pen. He's not going to come see what you have unless you have watermelon. You see right there. That's why he's standing 12 yards away looking up like, hey, is that the last piece of watermelon you're going to throw? And he's always in a yearling pen, and obvious reasons, we don't want him getting hurt. But the other thing is because of that yearling pen, he dominates the watermelon field, so to speak.
Well, this is it's an incredible experience for me to be able to come out here. Now keep in mind, downtown Houston, Texas is right there. I mean, so if you're from out of state and you want to fly into Houston, and George can tell you exactly where to come. It's real close, and he's got a lot of deer. He's only been in the breeding business about 6 years, but he's made a name for himself. I mean, Gunslinger certainly helped him with that. But George has got the best of the best down here in this area. And I owe it all to Gunslinger. I really do. I mean, you have gotten to a point now, because of Gunslinger, everybody knows who George Tunall is. Yeah,
he definitely pushed our farm to the next level. You know, whenever we got Jesse James, now he's 10 years old, a lot of people are like, man, you know, that's a heck of a deer. And especially now you see the production Jesse James' daughters are doing, such as in Willie and Waylon and different deer that are out there. But Gunslinger, I think, is really going to eclipse them all because he has the frame. Even though you look at something he can bring to the game, which is his width, his beam length, and his tine length, of course, which is probably what he's most famous for. What I really appreciate about him, when you start looking at his sons, a lot of them are 8-bys and 9-bys and 7-bys.
As yearlings.
Yeah, as yearlings.
As yearlings, and so that is absolutely incredible. So if somebody wants more information about coming down here to Tajada Whitetails, what you need to do, you can go to deerandwildlifestories.com. We have a direct link right from our website to George, or give him a phone number and tell him how they can get a hold of him.
Sure, get a hold of us at 832-622-2571.
George, thank you. I appreciate you having us out, and I'd like to thank y'all for watching today's show. I'd like to thank Gunslinger for really kind of getting me excited every single time I come here. Every time I go by Houston, it's like, I got to go by and see my buddy Gunslinger. He's absolutely beautiful. If y'all have any questions or comments about the program and you're watching online, please go ahead and post them below. And if you're not watching online, go to deerandwildlifestories.com. You can watch all of our programs 24/7. My name's Keith Warren, and you've been watching Deer and Wildlife Stories.